Well, now that you're here, thank you. We'll go ahead and get started. We all ready? All right. So we'll bring to order the Regional Planning Commission Wednesday, November 14th edition, and we'll start with roll call, please.
Frank Peterson. Here. James Fewens.
Here.
Diane Vanderwell.
Here.
James Barnes.
Here.
Sarah Chavilicek.
Here.
Larry Chesney.
Here.
Ed Hawkins.
Here.
Kevin Weisky.
Here.
And Peter Gower.
Here. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 2, which is the salute of the flag. And if I could ask Commissioner Peterson to lead us this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Looking for a motion on item number 3, approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair,
We'll go with Commissioner Peterson.
If there's no change from our alterations, I have moved to approve the agenda as stated.
Okay, thank you.
second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. We will move on to item number 4, approval of the minutes. Looking for a motion on the October 10th minutes, please.
Commissioner Weisky, so moved.
Thank you. Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Commissioner
Second.
Hawkins, second.
Motion by Commissioner Weisky, second by Commissioner Hawkins. He beat you to it. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Commissioner Gower, I abstain. Moving on to item number 5, public comment.
Yes, we have 4 this evening. We have Tammy Hildstill, and after that will be Danny Cleus.
Okay. Just a reminder, Tammy, to say your name when you get to the podium. You have 3 minutes. Welcome.
The record, the water's still there. Of course, I'm still here. I don't know if any of you have taken the time to look at NTEP's report regarding Lemon Valley Heights. It's been a long day. I was at the city of Reno all day. Or the Lemon Valley sewer plant. But it was quite interesting to read that. What originally started out as 11 ponds is now 9 ponds. And then going through Google Earth, we actually saw where it was one big pond. Now, where I'm coming from on this is they did the inspection on the processes of it, but as far as structurally, there wasn't anything said about it structurally. My concern is, number one, if homes that were surrounded by water for 4 months have dirt differential, how is it that sewer plant in 22 months wouldn't have some of the same issues? And doesn't that cause problems with how things are processed? And as far as the red algae, wonder where that came from, considering all 11 ponds were covered in water. So development is not something that needs to be done out in the North Valleys between Stead and Lemon Valley. Anything that goes into the Lemon Valley Hydrological Basin needs to stop until, number one, the Reno-Stead sewer plant effluent water, which is 2.5 million gallons of water a day, goes someplace else. Also, your stormwater for the city of Reno needs to be addressed. I know for a fact that holding ponds have not worked. We've seen it. I've showed it to the city of Reno many times. I've shown it to Washoe County many times. Those of you in Sparks haven't seen it, but if you'd like to see it, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to show you. We have video. Stormwater runoff from impervious ground is an issue. Holding ponds are an issue. Retention ponds are an issue because they're not engineered correctly, or if they are engineered correctly, they're used at the whim of the developer that has them. Oh, we decided we're going to pull the drain and let it to go. Well, if everybody's pulling the drain at the same time, you're gonna end up in the same thing. So it's gotta stop. And it's gonna take regional to say, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Danny Cleus, and after that will be Russ Earl.
Danny Cleus for the record. Why do we make master plans? Isn't that what's supposed to be followed? Because every meeting I go to, there's always an amendment to a master plan. There's always an amendment to somebody's property. Why even have a master plan? Why don't you just have them come up, hey, this is what we want to do? Why is there amendment to every plan that is done? Been coming to City of Reno, Washoe County, some of regionals, and every time there's an amendment. Been doing this for almost 2 years now straight. It's a pain in my butt. I'd rather be home enjoying my dog or something like that. Just like Tammy said, we're all day at the City of Reno council meeting. We go to 2 to 3 meetings a day sometimes. And it's the same thing over and over and over again. Just like tonight. How many amendments are on the agenda tonight? All of them. There's a problem here, folks. It needs to be addressed. It's just not the North Valleys. It's south, it's out west, it's out east, I'm sure. We don't deal much with Sparks because that's not our area. And it's crazy. As things that get amended seem to be making the situation even worse. For us in the North Valleys, like Tammy said, the storm drain off. I just followed that new cement creek that they made down center of Lemon Drive. There was supposed to be a detention pond that drained into first and then went to the lake. Guess what? No, we got a concrete river now. There's a direct flow right into that lake. But yet, they say it's part of the flood mitigation plan. Well, shouldn't you start at the beginning with that lake? But yet, everybody wants to develop. Hey, let's make a concrete stream now. Develop. Let's develop some more. Today, at the city council meeting, Reno Stead sewer plant. They can't make up their mind if it's full or not full. One day it's full, next day it's not.
We have Russ Earl, and after that will be Michael Welling.
Good evening, Russ Earl. I'm president of the Silver Knolls Community Organization. We've been here before. All my comments tonight are pertaining to the Peavine development that's on your agenda tonight. We've gone through this before. They've asked to be removed from the joint corridor before. It doesn't just impact Reno residents. This impacts the entire county. From there, let me go on. Here again, we have an irresponsible developer pushing an ill-advised and irresponsible development plan. Tonight, it begins with just changing some zoning of large parcels down to slightly smaller. But their overall plan, as it was last time, was high-density development in an area that right now is a wildland area. If you've all been watching the news, we've had the Paradise fires, a little bit different than our area, but last year we had the Tubbs fire in Santa Rosa that wiped out Coffee Park. What they will eventually be proposing is an exact replica of the density, if not even more so, than what they had in Coffee Park. We all know they lost close to 2,000 structures there, and 20 some odd lives were lost. Well, this not only degrades the quality of life for the surrounding individuals that live in that area, but it puts their future residents' safety at risk. We cannot allow density of this development developments of this density level to occur in the wildland interface areas. We're going to continue to have these wind-driven events. We've had them in Silver Knolls a little over a year and a half ago. And with the changing climate and the dryness that we have, these are issues we have to think about. Coffee Park on the CAL FIRE's fire maps that showed what the risks were was considered to be unburnable. Unburnable. Well, with the density of the houses only a few feet from each other, and with wind-driven embers that carried more than 2 miles, and their development is right on the fringe of Peavine. We all know that's burned. We just had it burn last week, and luckily Truckee Meadows stopped that fairly quickly. But with that, once you get one structure burning and you're 5 feet from the next structure, that one goes up due to radiant heat. And then you have a conflagration, and it's a domino effect. I've talked about this before. I've talked to the fire marshal in Santa Rosa. Unfortunately, CAL FIRE and Cal OES have not finalized their fire reports for that fire last year. But he did tell me, not causal was the density, but definitely it added much to the destruction that was done due to the high density. We cannot allow that type of development to occur in our open areas. It's appropriate for downtown if you want to do the high density, but not out there. You need to have at least 1 acre lots where there's some space between structures. That's not to say we won't lose those structures in a wildfire. But that's something that you folks need to think of. And I'd hate to have something come back to the county and the city and say, you guys knew and it was your fault that this happened. Thank you.
Next up is Michael Welling.
Good evening, I'm Michael Welling. So many people tonight in front of you have touched on so many things that are taking place in the North Valleys, whether it be water, density, et cetera. But I want to bring you back, especially Mr. Weisky and Gower, to some comments that were made this past summer when there was a water person that came before you and talked about the amount of water and effluent and how we were going to get rid of it and deal with it in the future. And when they talked about it in this meeting, it was a city meeting for planning. After he talked about it, one of the comments that was made was that in Cold Springs, when that development was talked about at Stonegate, if we'd have known what we know now, we'd have voted differently. We're talking about density changes, we're talking about corridor changes, we're talking about a lot of things that affect the North Valleys. The thing of it is that if you look at the way that our growth is going right now, 500,000 and plus houses are flat. There's no growth. $380,000 is our median housing price right now. The thing of it is that the inventory is going up because people aren't buying because there's not the people there for it. They're not paying more now for houses than they were previously. All these statistics are there for you through the realtors here in this town. The only area that we're having issues with is in the $200,000 range. The thing of it is that the market's gonna come back to this. We just keep building, we keep saying yes to properties and doing these things. Tiny houses aren't the answer. They might be for some people, but it's not the answer for what we consider an issue these days. High density might be the answer, but in some of the areas that we're talking about here, especially in the corridor of the Stead corridor and in the North Valleys, I don't know that that is the answer. We have lots of other things where we have interface with large properties and small properties, and then we go ahead and dump high density right in the middle of 1, 2, and 5 acre properties. We need to think responsibly about this, and we need to think responsibly about this water. We took a 3,500 housing project in Cold Springs and made it a 5,000 home project. We've got to do things differently. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments on this general public comment item?
I have none.
Okay, thank you very much. For those, we will move on to item number 6, business of the day. 6A is possible adoption of the advanced schedule of RPC meeting dates. Chris, welcome.
Evening, Commissioners. Chris Hawley, Team RPA for the record. The draft advance schedule shows meeting dates, the regular meeting dates and reserve dates for the 2019 calendar year. Noteworthy details from this: we may elect to use the January 23rd reserve date instead of the regular meeting date on January 9th. There is no December reserve date, as it would fall on the observed Christmas holiday. Just to show you the 2019 calendar of events up on the screen for reference. And then, finally, there are two suggested motions listed on the screen or on page 10 of your packet. The two possible motions, one of which would adopt what is found in attachment 8, or if you wanted to make some changes, that's the second motion. So that does conclude staff's presentation on this item. Available for any questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Chris. Questions for Chris? If not, I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move to adopt the 2019 advanced schedule of meeting dates identified in attachment 1.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Vanderwell. Have a motion, do I have a second?
Commissioner Weisky, second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. We will move on to item 6B, public hearing conformance review item. Chris, welcome back.
Thanks. Good evening again, Commissioners. Chris Hawley, Team RPA for the record. The case before you is a regional plan conformance review for a Washoe County Master Plan Amendment, Spanish Springs Area Plan, or Spanish Springs General Commercial, case number CR 18-06. Here is the regional location map showing the full extent of the Spanish Springs Area Plan boundary, which is outlined in green, and the Suburban Character Management Area, or SCMA, which is outlined in green, also with a crosshatch. So that'd be inside of the outer green outlined. The proposal is an amendment to the Washoe County Master Plan, in particular, the Spanish Springs Area Plan, to remove the general commercial date limitation of August 17, 2004, within the Suburban Character Management Area. The amendment will allow the general commercial regulatory zone on any parcel with a commercial master plan land use in the SCMA through future requests. For additional perspective, the SCMA is also shown on this map. And then to move on to the review criteria, Policy 4.1.3 of the regional plan identifies 6 factors that the RPC must consider, which are listed on this slide. Today's action will not directly result in further intensification of land. However, it may permit a situation where requests to intensify land would not require a regional plan amendment. A regional plan conformance review, my apologies, such as a case of a zoning amendment. The analysis contained in the staff report took this into consideration in the normal policy evaluation. In regards to regional form and pattern, Policy 1.3.3 of the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan limits commercial uses in the unincorporated areas to an appropriate scale to serve the local community and not the greater region. This policy is implemented by the Spanish Springs Area Plan Policy SS 17.3, which has been found in conformance with the regional plan. Additionally, Washoe County limits commercial development through a cap, which limits the total amount of commercial and industrial zoning to 9.86% of the SCMA. In regards to public services and infrastructure, Washoe County staff has stated that any future intensifications requests will have to conform to Spanish Springs Area Plan Policy SS.17.2A regarding water, sewer, and stormwater improvements to support the intensification. And finally, in relation to the goals and policies of the regional planning staff has not identified any significant conformance issues and recommends approval of the proposal based on consistency and/or compatibility of the review factors listed in this policy. And finally, you can find the suggested motion on the screen or on page 23 of your packet. This does conclude staff's presentation. TMRPA and Washoe County staff are available for any questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Chris. Questions for Chris? If not, how about a motion? Commissioner Peterson?
I'd like to make the motion that I move to find the Spanish Springs Area Plan, Suburban Traffic Management Area, General Commercial Date, Limitation and Remove. Amendment to the Washoe County Master Plan in conformance with the 2012 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report.
Commissioner Chesney, second.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. So we'll move on to item 6C. Chris, keep rolling.
Good evening again, Commissioners. Chris Tully, TMRPA, for the record. The case before you is a regional plan amendment to amend the boundaries of the Reno-Stead Corridor Joint Plan located on map 6 of the regional plan. Also, this item is related to agenda item 6D, as both a regional plan amendment and a conformance review are required for this request. This item will address the regional plan amendment considerations, and the following item will address the master plan amendment considerations. The Reno-Stead Corridor Joint Plan was initially adopted in 1999 as a way to better coordinate planning efforts in the Reno-Stead area. Policy 4.2.1 and Policy 4.2.2 of the regional plan allows for the designation of the Reno-Stead Corridor Joint Planning Area and requires Washoe County and the City of Reno to adopt a master plan for that area, and that must be consistent with the regional plan. The Regional Planning Governing Board may, through a regional plan amendment, affirm, modify, or remove the designation of a joint planning area as detailed in Policy 4.2.3. Finally, the City of Reno and the Reno City Council, and Washoe County Commission both voted to remove the subject site from the Reno-Stead Corridor Joint Plan and sponsored this requested regional plan amendment. The approximately 559.3 acre parcel or site is located approximately 1,700 feet south of the US 395 and Red Rock Road interchange. The full extent of the Reno-Stead Corridor Joint Plan is shown here in a blue crosshatch, with the subject site to be removed from the Reno-Stead Corridor Joint Plan outlined in black with a crosshatch also. On this slide, you can see a breakdown of the Truckee Meadows services areas by jurisdiction. The site is located in the City of Reno's corporate boundary. And then for additional perspective, here is an aerial from 2016. And then on to the review criteria. Policy 4.3.6, the regional plan identifies 6 factors that the Regional Planning Commission and Regional Planning Governing Board must consider, which are listed on this slide. As previously noted, this request would alter the current boundaries of the Reno-Stead Corridor Joint Plan and remove its provisions from the subject parcel. A few notes from the analysis. An increase in residential density is possible as a result of the removal from the Reno-Stead Corridor Joint Plan, but the land uses have been translated as closely as possible between the existing and proposed. This component will be covered, or this component is additionally covered in the conformance review item. The proposed amendment will not impact the availability, timing, and phasing of infrastructure. The site does contain development constraint areas for slope. This is addressed through policies in the City of Reno Master Plan. And finally, in relation to the goals and policies of the regional plan, regional planning staff has not identified any significant issues with the review criteria and recommends the RPC consider the regional plan amendment as described in the staff report and adopt RPC Resolution 18-06, recommending adoption to the RPGB. And finally, you can find a suggested motion on the screen or on page 52 of your packet. This does conclude staff's presentation. TMRPA and City of Reno staff are available for any questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Chris. Questions for Chris?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Weisky.
thank you. Chris, can you give us a little background into what the conversation was at Reno City Council meeting and the Washoe County Commissioners meeting as why this is a benefit to take this out of a joint planning zone?
And I'll invite City of Reno staff up to answer. Thank you for the question.
Good evening, Heather Manzo, Associate Planner with the City of Reno, for the record. At the City Council and Board of County Commissioners meeting, both bodies had a discussion about how the area is already within the City of Reno, and so it made sense to allow for future development to occur under the City of Reno's jurisdiction alone. And as you may be familiar by looking through your packets this evening, part of their consideration was allowing for it to come out of the joint corridor plan, but the City Council did deny the request for the more intense land use designations at that time. So both City Council and the Board of County Commissioners felt that it was appropriate to allow for the removal of the property from the joint corridor plan and fall under City of Reno jurisdiction alone.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hawkins?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Heather, so tonight we're just meeting to do some housekeeping on zoning and all, and transfer of what was county now is Reno, is that correct?
What's before you this evening as a regional body is the consideration of the regional plan amendment from the regional perspective, and regional staff may be able to address that better than I just did.
Thank you for the question. So this is, what you're entertaining here is essentially a boundary modification on the regional plan, as noted in, I don't remember what the policies were off the top of my head, but 4.2.1 and 2, and also 3. The City of Reno and Washoe County can designate a area for joint planning and then also remove that land from it through a similar process. So this process here, what's being considered in this item is just the modification to the boundary again of the Reno State Corridor Joint Plan as is shown on map 6 of the regional plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, question for you. Can you just give us kind of a summary of the purpose of joint planning as it is in the regional plan, number 1, and number 2, what this would change in terms of the purpose of that planning provision?
So thank you for the question. And this is partly contained in, the answer is partly contained in the presentation portion, in that the joint plan allows for a cooperative, basically a cooperative planning to occur between the bodies for them to convene together and make land use decisions. The purpose as it relates to the change moving forward, what it simply does is removes the provisions of the Reno State Corridor Joint Plan and puts in place, I guess, in a matter of way, the City of Reno provisions or policies.
So what are the provisions of the Reno State Corridor Joint Plan that make it meaningful? Because it's in a cooperative planning area, right? I mean, the cooperative planning has to occur anyway, but this is an additional layer of coordination that we're making a decision whether to keep or to remove, right?
Mr. Chair, if I may, just a little bit more context on the Reno-Stead Corridor Joint Plan. Certainly my understanding when this was brought in by both the City of Reno and Washoe County at the time, that land was considered to eventually be moving into the incorporated boundaries of the City of Reno. And so there was an understanding at the time that there needed to be conversation and an opportunity to jointly plan and make decisions around that area. So the conversation now, as we're talking about this item, is taking something out of the Reno-Stead Corridor Joint Plan. So it was a tool, and has been a tool, that allows for there to be decision-making process for both Reno and Washoe County. I can tell you that there was a joint plan with the City of Sparks and Washoe County at one point, and once that area was completely planned out, that corridor plan, that joint plan, did cease to exist.
Thank you. That explanation is really helpful. My follow-up question to that is not being privy. So we saw this as a joint commission when City of Reno Planning Commission sat with the Washoe County Planning Commission in April, and we saw that. And then there was another process that happened at the council and the commission level that we didn't see. From the time that it came to the joint body, what is item 6D was different than what we're seeing tonight. So I guess my question is, if there's this agreement on what the plan is going to be, is there, because that changed from when we saw it? So maybe you can just kind of fill in that gap, and Heather, I don't know if you can do that too, I know we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves because this is 6D, but I mean, these two pieces go together.
Thank you, Heather Manzo, Associate Planner, for the record. To go back to your question, as far as, I think the regional staff summarized what the intent of the joint corridor plan was. But as far as answering the question on how the applicable policies may be affected by the decision this evening, when the joint plan was adopted, there were specific policies regarding land use, topography, and things of that nature that were incorporated into the joint plan. This was prior to cooperative planning being adopted within the City of Reno, and it was prior to the adoption of the Reimagine Reno plan, of course. And so a lot of those policies that were a part of the joint corridor plan have now been incorporated into Reno City Code, as well as the Reimagine Reno master plan. And so to kind of further elaborate on my earlier answer, the City Council and the Board of County Commissioners did acknowledge that the Reimagine Reno plan, as it's in place today, would be sufficient to help address a lot of the policies that are currently in place in the joint plan. And then regarding the difference in decision that the governing bodies made with regard to the second request, the request for the master plan amendment, the Planning Commission motion included two different parts of the request. One was to approve or to make a decision on the removal of the site from the joint corridor plan. And then the second part of that consideration was a master plan amendment from what would be the translation land uses from Washoe County's land uses, which were adopted as a part of the joint plan, and the City of Reno land use designations. And so at the time that the Planning Commission had discussion, because the motion really was to deny the request for removal of the site from the joint corridor plan, the Planning Commission did not have further discussion on whether or not the master plan amendment itself was appropriate. And so at the City Council level, they took the information that came forward from the Joint Planning Commission meeting and considered both the request for the removal of the site from the area from the joint plan area, as well as the master plan amendment on its merits as far as the requested intensification. I hope that helps to answer your question.
Yeah, it does. Mr. Weisky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This question is for regional staff. If the Regional Planning Commission tonight makes motion and approves the motion as recommended, and we are going to recommend to Regional Planning Governing Board to make a final decision on whether or not this gets removed, what I'm hearing you say, and I want this confirmed, is that Washoe County no longer wants any jurisdictional rights to the planning of this area. They want to wash their hands of it. They want to leave it in the hands of the City of Reno, and the Washoe County Board of Commissioners is good with that.
And working or speaking with county staff, that was essentially what they put forward for the reasoning behind voting to remove the piece of land from the Reno State Corridor Joint Plan that you just basically answered it in a way, but that was the case, yes.
So the answer is yes?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Tavilichek, did you have any questions on this?
Thank you, Chair Gower. Yes, I do. And this would be for City of Reno staff. And, you know, when I don't have the beauty of being able to see what's on your screens, so I'm just relying on the map. So, Heather, what I thought I heard you say was that City of Reno is, and I don't want to be putting words in your mouth, and you can please correct me if I'm misspeaking. What I thought I heard you say was that City of Reno is aware of that the development plan is too dense, and is trying to be cognizant of what the Joint Commissions put forth when we had our joint meeting for denial.
Heather Manzo, Associate Planner for the record. Yes, that's correct. At the joint City Council and Board of County Commissioners meeting, it was put on the record that the City Council was uncomfortable based on the information provided in the materials presented that evening. They were uncomfortable with the request to intensify the land use as it was presented then. And so they did ultimately deny the request for the intensification of the master plan designation within the City of Reno, and did support the amendment to the joint plan to remove that area with the acknowledgement that the land use would translate to the most closely related City of Reno land use designations for those two portions of the site.
Okay, thank you. And if I may, Mr. Chair?
Yep, please do.
With regards to what Ms. Robeson said about when Stead and Washoe Sparks and Washoe had a joint plan until it ceased to exist. I just would like the record to reflect that there are still pieces of property that are within the Reno-Stead Joint Corridor, so the plan has not sunsetted yet. And it's still in a, hopefully we're still in a cooperative planning mode.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just to confirm, Commissioner Tavilichek, yes, that is correct. The Reno-Stead Corridor Joint Plan does still exist.
Okay, thank you very much.
Other questions? I have one more question, and I think either Chris or Heather, you can answer it. It's sort of a hypothetical. What is the process with what the proposal was at the joint meeting to Reno City Council and Washoe County joint meeting with, again, this is getting to item D. what would be the process if the developer wanted to pursue a change to go back to that proposal from what's on the table under this sort of CD combination?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I would like to ask for our legal counsel to answer that question.
So the question is, and I'll just tell you, my concern is that from when we saw this, we have one proposal to remove it from the Reno-Stead Joint Corridor. We have another one that's basically a proposal for a certain type of development. That development is different than the development proposal that we originally saw as a Joint Planning Commission in April. And my concern is that we're going through a three-step process here. One, to remove it from the joint corridor. One, to get it approved as a certain type of development. And then a third, to go back to the original type of development that was proposed originally. So I want to know what the process would be if we approve C and D, if they want to go back to the higher density development. Is that a master plan amendment? Is it a zone change? What is that process?
I'm going to defer to Reno Planning Staff.
Yeah,
Whether
I think
the
so.
third one would require a master plan amendment, and then we can circle back to the actual agenda item.
Okay.
Heather Manzo, Associate Planner for the record. In the event that the regional plan amendment is adopted and the request to utilize City of Reno land use is found in conformance with that amended regional plan, then any request to further intensify beyond the unincorporated transition and the large lot neighborhood designations that would be assigned would require a master plan amendment that would come before the Planning Commission, City Council, and ultimately before regional planning.
Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted to know. Thanks, Heather. Okay. Any other questions, discussion, or a motion? Commissioner Vanderwell.
And Chair Gower, just so you know, we have public comment as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Of course.
Tammy Holt, or are you going to the Tammy Holt still? You can go if you want. And you want to speak on C and D, is that correct?
Well, I think he knew where I was probably going to start asking questions, and he asked questions, so I don't have to. But Tammy Hillstill, Lemon Valley Swan Lake Recovery Committee, for the record, thank you for asking the questions that you asked, because those were my questions, because I could see a loophole coming. Number one, it doesn't need to be intensified. There shouldn't be any development right now. You have an issue with that sewer plant. You have an issue with the Lemon Valley sewer plant. You have an issue with stormwater runoff in that corridor. And until that corridor is fixed, addressed, worked on, putting more impervious property up so that more water can run off isn't what's needed to be done. I'm kind of disappointed at Regional for staff recommending that this be approved. I don't think that City of Reno should have full authority over that area, because obviously if Regional had more control like they should have, that maybe the position that we're in right now, if somebody was really watching over and saying, well, we shouldn't be doing this until this is done, the infrastructure is not here, there's things that need to be done before all this stuff gets approved, rubber stamped. And that's what I'm seeing right now is rubber stamping, and I'm really disappointed. Thank you.
That's all I have for that, for public comment.
Oh, okay. Thought you had more. All right.
Sir, can I make a comment very briefly?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, just fill one out after, please. Thank you.
Russ Earl, Silver Knolls. I guess I have one question with this. With the C portion, if you vote to approve that, and then that puts it into the Reno realm of planning, does that take the other half of your commission out of the D portion of tonight? Because I know that was an issue last time we did this, when you folks voted, Washoe could only vote on a portion of if it went one way or the other. And I'm just concerned that it kind of takes the whole idea of regional planning out of the mix, because what happens on that hillside does have entire repercussions for everybody downstream of that, especially with stormwater, with Silver Lake. Those of us in Silver Knolls, we've already had flooding. Luckily, the lake has dropped a bit right now. But I don't want to see you folks be kind of fragmented as to what you can and can't do depending on how the first portion of this vote goes.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you for that. Before I turn it over to Kim to answer your question, I want to make sure that there are no more public comments.
I have none over here.
Okay, so we'll close public comment, and I'm sure we're all curious to get an answer to that last question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kim Robinson for the record. Excuse me, no, this will not prevent the Washoe County portion of the Regional Planning Commission making this decision tonight. This board sits as a regional board and therefore has the rights and responsibilities of making those choices together as identified in state statute. So.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Weisky.
Mr. Chairman, before Commissioner Vanderwell makes a motion, can I ask for one more clarification from Ms. Robeson? Thank you. Is this a recommendation or is this an approval denial?
Kim Robinson for the record, as a regional plan amendment, this is a recommendation to the Regional Planning Governing Board.
So Regional Planning Governing Board will make the final decision.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Vanderwall, you were moving in a certain direction.
Yes. Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve RPC Resolution 18-06, recommending to the RPGB adoption of an amendment to the boundaries of the Reno-Stead Corridor Joint Plan shown on Map 6 of the 2012 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan as detailed in this staff report.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Weisky, I'll second it.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No.
Chair Gower, I'm opposed as well.
Thank you. Can we get a member count on that, please?
Yep. 1 second here. Frank Peterson.
Aye.
James Fewens.
Aye.
Diane Vanderwell.
Aye.
James Barnes.
No.
Sarah Chavilicek.
No.
Larry Chesney.
Aye.
Ed Hawkins.
Aye.
Kevin Weisky.
Aye.
And Peter Gower.
No.
To the chair. According to the legal requirements, those that were not in favor of the motion, which I scoured the plan and couldn't find anything that didn't meet the plan requirements, they need to tell us on what parts of the findings they can't see to pass.
Agreed. Thank you, Commissioner Chesney. So we have the policy in our staff report, policy 4.3.6. So the identification of the policy or subcomponents of it that cannot be made for the vote of denial. I'll start it off. So I'm looking for it in my staff report. It's the provision related to, I want to make sure that I find it. I apologize. Availability and timing and phasing of infrastructure. I believe that the Reno-Stead Corridor Joint Plan supports appropriate phasing and timing of infrastructure because that coordination, that level of coordination is in place. I have a concern about, and again, this is 6D, but because these go together, I'm concerned that that level of coordination, particularly in the North Valleys where there's concern about infrastructure availability, capacity, adequacy, that any type of coordination that we can have between the city of Reno and Washoe County is imperative. And taking that away at this point just seems imprudent. Commissioner Barnes or Commissioner Chvilcek, if you want to add to that, or
This is Commissioner Chvilcek, and I was saying the same thing. Number 5, public service levels and fiscal impact, as well as number 1, including open space, because this takes a huge chunk of open space out.
Yeah, and this is Commissioner Barnes. My concern is item 4, the phasing and timing of infrastructure.
Okay.
Sorry, this is Commissioner Chvilcek again. Yes, number 4, phasing and timing of infrastructure, not item 5. Well, public service levels, because sewage and all of that is part of the infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. I want to make sure with legal counsel and director that we're covered on this item, and moving on to the next item, that we're okay to proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jessica Prenti for the record. Yes, we have 6 in favor, 3 opposed. This is passed, met the 2/3 majority requirement, and you can move forward to the next item.
Okay, thank you very much. We will do so then, moving on to item 6D. Chris, welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Again, Chris Tolley, Team RPA for the record. This case before you is a regional plan conformance review for a City of Reno Master Plan Amendment, Echeverria Peavine property, case number CR 18-015. Excuse me. This is related to the regional plan amendment heard in the previous item. Here is a regional location map showing the subject property. And this slide shows the aerial photo from 2016 and depicts the character of development around the site. The proposal is a master plan amendment. The change in land use is from special planning area, Reno-Seg Corridor Joint Plan, high-density rural on 143 acres, and special planning area, Reno-Seg Corridor Joint Plan, general rural on 416.3 acres, to City of Reno Master Plan land use designations, unincorporated transition on 400 acres, and large lot neighborhood on 158 acres. Apologize for the lengthy description. The existing and proposed land use designations being analyzed in this conformance review are similar in character. As shown on this slide, the site is located in the City of Reno's portion of the TMSA. And then on to the review criteria. Policy 4.1.3 of the regional plan identifies 6 factors that the RPC must consider, which are listed on this slide. An increase in residential density is possible as a result of this amendment, but the land uses have been translated as closely, again, this is building out the point from the previous, translated as closely as possible between the existing and proposed to maintain a similar overall character, maintaining a similar overall character. The project site is currently subject to the City of Reno's concurrency management system that ensures adequate public facilities and infrastructure for sewer, water, flood management, police, fire, traffic, schools, parks, and schools will be available at the time impacts occur from new development. These requirements will remain applicable if the amendment is approved. The site is located in a cooperative planning area. The request was sent to Washoe County for review, and they provided comments regarding the request. Finally, in relation to the goals and policies of the regional plan, regional planning staff has not identified any significant conformance issues and recommends approval of the proposal based on consistency and/or compatibility with the review factors listed in this policy. And finally, you can find the suggested motion on the screen or on page 73 of your packet. This does conclude staff's presentation. TMRPA and City of Reno staff are available for any questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Chris. Questions for Chris? Nope. Any public comment on this item?
Tammy, did you still want to speak on this item? All right, Tammy Holt still.
Tammy Hillsdale, Lemon Valley Swan Lake Recovery Committee for the record. Based upon this criteria, I don't see how you guys can make a finding. First of all, regional form and pattern, that's open space. It has been open space. If you looked at the original map that he had shown, you could see where all the stormwater runoff was going through the creeks. Number two is infill. That's not an infill. That's a whole new development. It's not an infill. Doesn't have any jobs to go with it. Public services and infrastructure. Where's your sewer? Where's your stormwater runoff gonna go? Where is the bus line? I can tell you there's not much bus line there. In fact, I know RTC is cutting back. Yeah. Accumulative effects or indirect effects, there's a lot of effects for this kind of thing to be happening. And it's time for you guys to stand up and say no. I just gave you 5 basic reasons to say no. And it's time that you guys start standing up and doing it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or discussion? If not, I'll ask for a motion. Commissioner Weisky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to find the Echeverria Peavine property amendment to the City of Reno Master Plan not in conformance with the 2012 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report. And I am basing that on the fact that I cannot make finding 1, 2, 4, and 6. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
This is Commissioner Chivilicek. I will second.
Wow, 4 of you were on that. Commissioner.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, it was like a tie between 4 of you. I saw Commissioner Hawkins making a motion to the microphone, so I'm gonna go with that one.
I just want to clarify, if Commissioner Weisky can clarify exactly what he just said, because I'm ready to vote on it. But if you could, I heard you say this is a denial.
It's a denial.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
For further clarification, that's because I cannot make findings of the criteria 1, 2, 4, and 6. So therefore, I am recommending a vote in denial.
And I agree with that. I can't make 2 of the findings, so I second the motion.
Okay, thank you. Have a motion and a second from Commissioner Hawkins, who was tied by Commissioner Chesney, Chivilicek, and Peterson. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Commissioner Fewens, nay.
Okay. Need a roll call vote? Okay.
Frank Peterson,
Aye.
James Fewens,
Nay.
Diane Vanderwell,
Nay.
James Barnes,
Aye.
Sarah Chivilicek. Sarah Chivilicek?
Yeah, so in favor of the denial, right? What we just voted on.
Correct, that's the motion.
Aye.
Larry Chesney,
Aye.
Ed Hawkins,
Aye.
Kevin Weisky,
Aye.
and Peter Gower.
Aye. Okay, and we will move on then to item 6E. Nate, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Nate Kusha, Regional Planning. This agenda item discusses the Sierra Manor TMSA amendment and can be found starting on page 93 of your packet. Overhead is a map showing the general location of the subject site. The Reno City Council sponsored this amendment, or this regional plan amendment, on September 12th, 2018. This request seeks to transfer 2 contiguous parcels totaling roughly 3.04 acres from Washoe County's portion of the TMSA to the City of Reno's portion of the TMSA and sphere of influence. Overhead is a map of the project site. As you can see on the map on this slide, the site is currently in Washoe County's portion of the TMSA and is adjacent to the City of Reno TMSA on 3 sides. Policy 1.1.7.1 of the regional plan describes a calculation for determining the acreage allowance within each jurisdiction's portion of the TMSA. City of Reno currently has 47.46 acres of TMSA capacity available. If this request is approved, they will be left with 44.42 acres of capacity. As a tool to better analyze TMSA amendments specifically, TMRPA staff uses the TMSA evaluation matrix, which is attachment 5 to your staff report. Also, as for any regional plan amendment, policy 4.3.6 of the regional plan requires the items listed on the slide above to be considered. This can also be found in your packet on page 94. A majority of the evaluation matrix essentially discusses criteria for each of the topical review factors listed above. The full analysis was included as part of your staff report, but for this presentation, we will briefly touch on each of these topics. So in terms of regional form and pattern, the site is currently within Washoe County's portion of the TMSA and is already anticipated for development. The proposed site is directly adjacent to an existing residential area, and staff believes that the synergy between the existing development and the proposed amendment site would exist. The amendment site currently has a land use designation of large lot neighborhood, and staff anticipates a minimal impact to the overall jobs housing balance. As stated previously, the subject property is already within the TMSA and is contemplated for future development. Necessary infrastructure and facilities are in place on adjacent parcels. Again, as previously noted, the subject property is located in the TMSA, which is the area where municipal infrastructure and levels of service to support urban and suburban development are allowed per the regional plan. Public services to serve the site exist adjacent to the site. Services existing include transit along South Virginia Street, as well as police and fire service provided by the City of Reno. The applicant has also provided a fiscal impact analysis, which shows that if the land were to be developed under the current land uses, it would net positive. Finally, the amendment site does lie within a FEMA 100-year floodplain. However, the City of Reno Master Plan Concurrency Management System requires that new development must demonstrate compliance with the Reno Municipal Code floodplain management and drainage regulations and all pertinent state and federal regulations before occupancy of each structure. Also, new development must be consistent with the Regional Water Management Plan. No other natural resource constraints were identified on the site. So with that, regional planning staff recommends the RPC consider the regional plan amendment as described in the staff report and adopt RPC Resolution 18-07, recommending adoption to the Regional Plan Governing Board. You can find the suggested motion on the screen above or on page 96 of your packet. This concludes my presentation, and Team RPA staff is available for any questions.
All right, thanks very much, Nate. Questions for Nate? Public comment on this item?
I have none.
Okay. Any discussion? How about a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Weisky, for the record. I move to approve the RPC Resolution 18-07, recommending to the RPGB adoption of a regional plan amendment to the 2012 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan to transfer 2 contiguous parcels totaling plus or minus 3.04 acres from Washoe County's portion of the TMSA to the City of Reno's portion of the TMSA and sphere of influence located on the south side of Holcomb Lane, plus or minus 644 feet west of South Virginia Street, as detailed in the staff report.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second by Commissioner Peterson. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to item 7, reports.
Mr. Chair, Kim Robinson for the record. Just a reminder that we are having our joint RPC and RPGB retreat on November 29th from 3 to 7 p.m. at Washoe County. We are looking forward to seeing you there, and happy Thanksgiving next week.
Thank you. Legal counsel's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jessica Prenti for the record. I have nothing to report tonight.
Great. Thank you very much. Item number 8, requests for future agenda items. Commissioner Hawkins.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. You know, every time we meet, we talk about conformance of everything. I've never seen a manual yet that has given me ideas or the verbiage doing what we're doing here tonight, conforming, you know, making sure everything's in conformance. I'd like to see something in the future that can give me some guidelines on how I'm supposed to act properly and speak about such things as conformance, because some of it is a gray area for me.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Vanderbilt.
since we've had several discussions tonight regarding sewer capacity and things like that, I attended a City of Sparks meeting last week where they talked about sewer capacity. Is there somewhere where we can have someone come in and talk to us about sewer capacity and as far as future development and how it's going to happen and what we need to do?
Mr. Chair, if I may, Kim Robinson again for the record. Certainly, the Planning Commission can ask for a presentation regarding sewer capacity. I'd like to have a little direction from the Commission regarding sewer capacity, and let me put it this way. Sewer is managed by 3 different jurisdictions in this community. So my question to the Commission would be, are you interested in hearing from all 3? What is it that you're interested in hearing from them, so that I may be able to prep these participants effectively?
Well, maybe I can expound on mine. When I had the presentation from the City of Sparks, they went by what their sewer capacity is, the maximum, what has been approved but not built, so that we knew the maximum number of units that we can have built before getting to capacity.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Weiss.
Since we are not individual planning commissioners from individual entities, but we are a group of regional planners, it would be nice to have all regional information brought before us, since we deal with all areas of Washoe County. Thank you.
Commissioner Hawkins.
And that, off of Commissioner Weiske's coattails here, we have a unique thing in the North Valleys because of the basins. And when the rest of the commission, other than the Reno folks, vote on this, it's essential that you guys get to see those basins. And what we're up against as commissioners, trying to do our job. And when it comes in front of us, you already have a better knowledge of what's going on in the valley and better apt to say yay or nay with a good conscience. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Robinson, do you need anything else in terms of direction, or?
Thank you very much. I believe I have what I need, and I will work at putting something together for you, and I'll report back. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on then to item 9, public comment.
Yes, we have one. Danny Cleus.
Dan Cleus for the record. I have one thing for you guys. If you guys are going to look at sewer capacity and all the discharge and everything else with those sewers, I wouldn't recommend staff at all. Go right to NDEP. They have all the records. They don't BS, because from what I know from Washoe County, City of Reno, it changes on a regular basis. And up in North Valley, it's like it was what Mr. Hawkins says. It is true. It's not like you guys down here. The Truckee River can take as much as they want with effluent. NDEP regulates you. We have closed basins. We can't take all what you guys want to build out there. We have records from NDEP that contradicts what the City of Reno's staff has said in the City of Reno's planning and council. Washoe County can't make up their mind either. So I would look into that, NDEP's records.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I have none.
Okay. How about item 10, written correspondence?
There is none.
Okay, thank you. Then item 11, motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. Have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.